You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I am Kirk Mona, and I am joined today by Rachel Ginza and Victoria Thompson. We are all professional naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this.
Welcome back, listeners, and welcome back, Victoria.
Yay!
I realized, happy to have you here. I realized while prepping for today's show that our audience has been growing like extremely fast lately. So since you were last on, we probably have somewhere between 150 and 200 new listeners who, unless they went back a few weeks, don't even know who you are. Like, they've heard your name in the intro, and they've probably been sitting around going, who's this Victoria woman that they mentioned in the intro that we never hear about? Can you just catch everyone up and tell us where you've been?
Hey everyone, I am one of the nominal co-hosts of this show, but I am also in nursing school. So I have stepped back a little bit. I'm now doing 2 out of every 4 episodes pretty much. And that's why you've been hearing some guests on the show lately, but I am officially part of this show. And here I am tonight.
Yay! Here you are. We are very, very excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be
here. You will always be, of course, a professional naturalist, but now you're also going to be a multi-skilled person.
Yes.
Not that you weren't already, but you're adding to your multitude of skills and hopefully bringing us some weird, some more weird stuff that you're learning about along the way, I know.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, keep at it and welcome back. In honor of you being here with us this week, I have a strange medical topic related to nature. And this is actually based on a study that came out of Japan recently that really blew my mind. So let's get right down to it.
All right.
This study was about food allergies. Now, obviously, food allergies are a pretty serious concern. I'm not talking about lactose intolerance, like you get a little upset stomach from food. I'm talking about the kind of allergies where you go into anaphylactic shock from eating or even some cases touching a food source, and you could be at risk of dying. So
it's bad.
This has always kind of amazed me that there are differences in humans in this regard. Like, I could eat a whole handful of peanuts and a big old spoon of peanut butter and probably even cover myself in peanut butter. Not that I would want to, but I could, and it'd probably have no other effect on me than to right. It would quench my hunger and probably moisturize my skin. But on the other hand, for some people, eating just a single piece of one peanut could literally kill them. And that is so strange to me that that's a thing that exists in humans. Now, that is bizarre enough. That could have been this week's topic. But what I have is, I think, even stranger.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah. A paper was released right at the end of last month. It was March 30th, 2023. And this paper outlined an observational study in Japan that involved 66,000 children. So
that's a pretty big study. Yeah.
Yeah. The results reported to show that children exposed to indoor cats and dogs while they were still in their mothers gestating, and then also again during early infancy, were less likely to have specific food allergies. Now, that is weird in and of itself, but it gets weirder. There were correlations between the kind of animal they were exposed to and the type of food allergy they didn't get.
What?
So here's a little breakdown. Yeah. Kids that were exposed to dogs had fewer egg, milk, and nut allergies. Children exposed to cats were significantly less likely to develop allergies to eggs, wheat, and soybeans. And finally, in a plot twist, children exposed to hamsters were actually more likely to develop nut allergies.
Don't get a hamster. That's my takeaway.
So
sorry,
strange.
kids.
I had hamsters.
Right? And do you have a nut allergy?
I do not. But I also grew up with dogs.
Okay, well, conflicting information there, I guess, with if you have a dog and a hamster. So this is all pretty fascinating. This followed other previous studies that have shown a correlation between being exposed to pets or even farm animals and a reduced incidence of allergies. There's a lot of speculation as to why this may be happening, and it might have to do with how our immune system works. I've certainly heard about how being exposed to animals early on can essentially train your immune system that allergens from pets are normal and not something you need to attack. But it's fascinating to think about why a fetus developing inside a mother in a house that has a cat makes the baby less likely to be allergic to soybeans? Like,
Yeah.
why? What's the connection there?
Yeah, that's weird.
And the truth is, we simply don't know. To be clear, though, we don't even know if there is a connection.
Yeah.
Can either of you identify the possible issue with this study, and frankly, all studies like it?
Well, it's only correlational. It's not causational.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was an observational study, which basically means they just were like asking people questions like at their doctor's checkups and whatnot. It wasn't like where they went out to carefully select a group of people and do a controlled study. It was just observing, what was already happening and looking for correlations. And the authors themselves went out of their way right at the front to point this out themselves, that observational studies cannot prove causation, just like you said, Victoria. All they can do is point out correlations, and correlation in science, while often right, can also be completely happenstance. It could be that people who have dogs in their homes also have dog food in their homes, and maybe being exposed to dog food makes you less allergic. It could be that genetically, parents of people who will grow up to be free of soybean allergies are also predisposed to enjoy the company of cats. Like, I don't know. People with pets also do more vacuuming, and being exposed to the sound of a vacuum cleaner in vitro, maybe that reduces your chance of allergies. Like, that's a pretty silly example, but let's assume the pet connection is real. People with pets do vacuum more. So if we had instead asked pregnant mothers about their vacuuming habits, we perhaps could come up with the same correlation, and it would look like vacuum cleaning actually is what makes people not have allergies, right?
Right.
Based on the data, that would seem to be correct. So the truth is, we simply cannot tell the reason for a correlation or even know if it's meaningful, even if we're sure that it's there.
Yeah. That's there could be what's called the confounding variable. Some other variable that they're not asking about that explains both of the things that we're looking at.
Yeah. And now, is there do I think there's probably something to the animal thing? Probably. That seems kind of reasonable, but we don't know.
I mean, exposure can either show or get you used to having a certain amount of allergies and different allergies. And I know that a lot of dog food and treats and things, a lot of them are peanut butter flavored. Maybe. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but
interesting. Like having peanut butter treats for dogs in the house or something.
At least in the US, we don't know about Japan.
Yeah, exactly. Now, on this whole correlation and causation thing, there's actually an amazing website that I'm going to put in the show notes, and it's basically called Spurious Correlations, and you can see amazing correlations and data sets that clearly are unrelated. So I was pouring through here, and here's a few highlights I saw. There is a direct and compelling 94% correlation between the number of people who drowned in a pool each year and the number of films Nicolas Cage appears in that year. And I'm pretty sure those are not actually related.
Pretty positive.
There's also a very compelling 99% correlation between the per capita margarine consumption and the divorce rate in the state of Maine.
Huh.
People eat more margarine, more people get divorced. 99% correlation over many years. I'll do just one more because it's a fun and it's a nature one. There's an 80% correlation between the number of letters in the winning word of the Scripps National Spelling Bee and the number of people killed by venomous spiders each year.
That's great.
That's so
So the
silly.
guy who did this website literally wrote a book called Spurious Correlations. So you can buy a whole book of these if you find them entertaining. Or perhaps you can sort through, there are 30,000 graphs on their website.
That's so many graphs.
So you can see that in science, correlation is not causation. We got to have something more. What we can do is go, wow, this is really interesting when it comes to this allergy thing. And then think of ways to test to see if there's an actual causative effect of pets and allergies.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of study we hopefully will be seeing in the future. If you want to check out the actual research paper, it's called Preschoolers with Pets Have Fewer Allergies and was published last month in PLOS One. So that's what I got this week.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Food for thought.
No.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's take a little break, and then Rachel will be up next. Strange by Nature podcast is brought to you by listeners like you who have joined the Society of Strange, our membership group on over at patreon.com/Strange by Nature. Society of Strange members can join at one of 3 different membership levels and help support the show and also get some fun stuff like water bottle stickers or access to super secret content. So a thank you to those who have joined already to help make this podcast possible. If you haven't joined yet, we'll see you soon over at the Society of Strange at patreon.com/Strange by Nature. See you soon.
All right, welcome back, everyone. This week, I have a fun story to tell you all.
Oh, good.
I like a fun story.
Yeah, they're always a good time, right? As naturalists, we get a lot of kids asking us all kinds of questions. They make observations all the time. And there was this one 8-year-old who happened to make just a great observation to just the right person, his dad. This 8-year-old, who is no longer 8, Hugh Dean, noticed something as he was exploring out in his backyard. He lifted up a log and saw that there were a bunch of these seed-looking things right by where ants were coming in and out. And his dad happened to be a professor of entomology at Penn State.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he went to his dad and was like, "Hey, Dad, what's happening?
What are these?
What's happening?
Yeah.
What's going on? I'm curious." And Hugo rather, thought they were seeds. It's like, why does the ant have a bunch of seeds by its home? And we've known for a long time that ants tend to spread seeds. Like, plants will create a coating or have like a little cap to entice ants to help disperse seeds. That's something science has known for a while.
Okay.
Okay.
It's not all seeds, but some seeds will have a
Probably
little
not
cap.
all ants and not all seeds, yeah.
Exactly. They'll have like a little cap. It has a special name that I'll get into in a minute. And they'll eat that part, but they'll drag the seed with them because they have to remove it at the ant nest. So it allows the seed to then be dispersed because they disregard the rest of the seed because it's coated in something else that isn't appetizing. And so they disperse it.
Do they drag it underground too before they do that?
Yes.
So does it then grow and destroy their nest?
It depends, to be fair.
Okay.
But what 8-year-old Hugo was seeing wasn't a seed at all.
No, I bet not, huh?
Saw what he saw and what his dad got very, very excited about, and then launched an entire like research project about it. Like, truly a kid's dream,
Nice.
right? To have like
Yeah.
an entire research project based on a question that you had. Amazing.
Right.
Were oak galls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, what ended up happening is all of the Penn State scientists, what they were able to do. So, his dad, Andrew Deans, they ended up researching and investigating this, and they actually have an elaborate relationship between the ants that carry the galls off, the wasps that make the galls, and oak trees, right? Because these are oak apple galls.
Wow. Okay, that's what I was going to ask, is which type of gall. Those are, when you were saying seed,
They're
I was
big.
picturing like
This is
little,
big.
like maybe this was going to end up being little eggs or little grass seeds. These are,
Because they're like the size of a grape, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, or like a shooter, like a shooter marble. Because all of our listeners, know what size a shooter marble is. Sorry, I'm an
Grape
old man,
might be a
apparently.
better comparison.
Shooter marbles are even like, that's like an old school thing for even one. That's like my parents' age. Like I did not, I wasn't out on the playground shooting marbles
like
as a child.
Like a pinball ball. Like the grape is a good.
There you go, a pinball ball. Thank you.
Yeah.
A slightly hipper reference. Surprised I didn't think of that. I'm not wearing my pinball t-shirt today.
You literally have a pinball machine.
I do. And I have plans for more. But that's not what this podcast is about.
So
anyway, I feel like we got a little derailed there.
we always do, let's face it. What it's called is oh my gosh, we're gonna try here. It's probably Latin.
Oh, go for it, Rachel. We're here
good.
for you. No one knows how it's pronounced. It's okay.
It's true. Myrmecory. Yeah, we're gonna go myrmecory. What is when certain plants will produce an edible bit, an appendage of some sort, called eleosome on their seed that attracts the ants, which then will disperse the seed because they carry them back to their nests and then disregard the seed, but they eat the elosome. Eleosome. There we go.
Okay, so that's the term for
like
when
a
you
traditional
have a seed. Is that the same thing?
With the seed, yes. This was figured out and is actually a common biology student. Apparently, it's something that is really commonly taught to show as an example between plant and insect interaction. But Penn State, led by Hugo's dad, Andrew Deans, they were able to reveal and they were able to find much more complicated version of it using wasp oak galls. What they found, what they were able to find is that the oak galls actually made their own version of eleosome on the gall to attract ants. And then they directly observed. Wow. So I have their own. They were able to name it, and I'm not even. It's like capellos. Is what they decided to call it.
Do the wasps end up hatching and eat the ants?
They don't. But that is great.
That's disappointing.
Okay.
Right.
I was like, is that where this is going, Rachel?
Right? That would be great.
Also,
yeah.
Go. You finish. I realized we probably maybe should explain what a gall is for listeners who might not know.
For those who didn't listen to our episode on galls.
Right. Yeah. So a gall is what
we had on Michael Hawk.
Exactly. So an oak gall, what it is there's specific kinds of wasps that will go to an oak tree and they will lay an egg in the plant fiber, in the leaf fiber, the stem of a leaf or a branch or something like that. Most often like a leaf or a stem. And it causes a reaction in the plant to swell up and just encase that little egg. And it's a bunch of plant fibers, and it's what the little baby egg and larva will actually eat as it's growing before it metamorphoses and flies off to be its own waspy self.
Flies away.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
So they were able...
But these are being harvested by ants.
These are being harvested by ants. So they were actually able to directly see these galls in ant colonies in the wild. This is in New York and central Pennsylvania. They were able to see ants transporting galls to their nests, remove the edible cap, and the galls themselves end up remaining intact while this is happening too. So they investigated to see if the capeos were similar to eleosomes. They made bait stations to see if they removed the same amount of seeds and galls, and it showed that there was no preference for either seed or galls. So because it showed that there was no preference between seeds or galls, it showed that the capeos functioned pretty much the same as the eleosomes.
Okay.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, and then
That is super cool.
they did do some control too to figure out if there were if they would just take the galls themselves, and if they didn't have that capeos on it, it wouldn't take the gall. The ants wouldn't take the gall.
Okay, so that was really the draw for them.
Mm-hmm.
Did they figure out if there's a reason, like an advantage, why the wasp would want the gall taken?
That's a great question. So they did kind of figure that out. So for the ants, it's a good source. It's similar to the eleosomes that capeos also have like really good fatty acids for the ants.
Yeah, I get that part.
For the wasps, it actually allows them to be protected. Like the larvae are more protected and less likely to be eaten by like birds and things because they're on the ground.
That makes sense.
Okay. And they've been moved to a protected spot.
Exactly.
Like under a log, presumably.
Exactly. And the galls themselves, as well as like seeds, they have like some sort of pheromone coating that makes them smell or give off the scent of like a dead insect. So the gall itself and the seed, the same with the seed too.
Lovely.
Well, that means the ants leave it alone. They don't go after and try to eat the gall. So it's a really complicated relationship, and it was just fascinating, and it came up to me, and I was just like, it's so cool.
That's this wild.
Yeah, evolution is amazing.
That relationship even came about, yeah.
Yeah, especially since ants technically
like
came...
the same thing in two different...
evolved after... ants evolved after wasps did, technically, too. Like, wasps are older than ants. Evolutionary speaking. Just wild.
They've had a little time to work this out, though.
Yeah.
And by little, I mean like billions of years.
Exactly. But
neither ants nor wasps have been around for billions of years, but millions certainly.
Millions, yeah.
And I did look this up because I'm a total nerd. Ants were from the Jurassic period, so that would be 140 to 168 million years ago.
Yeah.
So I apologize for making them older than they are.
So I just wanted to tell the story of, he's 10 now, but of 10-year-old Hugo Deans asking his dad a question and then rocking the etymology field with his question. My source this week, I got a lot of information from the Brighter Side News, but I also use the discoverwildlife.com. So they had a lot of really good information. If you want to learn more, the findings from the paper were published in the American Naturalist. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, it'll be Victoria! Yay!
Hey, so a few weeks ago, Kirk, you sent me a link to an article that was a follow-up on a topic I did several weeks ago. And
Yes, I've already forgotten what that was, but yes, I did. I remember sending something.
yeah,
I'm about to be surprised, I think.
Those are my favorite kind of
everything's fresh.
moments.
It's like a goldfish
Yeah.
coming around again. If you've been listening to this show for at least a few weeks, you will remember an episode I did recently about the amazing South American vine, Boquilla trifoliata, which can mimic the
one-
leaves of more than a dozen other plants.
Right.
Yes, that was so
Yes.
weird.
So wild.
Oh, man.
Extremely weird. So if you remember, the leaves of one individual Boquilla plant can mimic multiple other plants along the length of a single individual vine. So like it can start out looking like
makes
itself.
No
and then,
sense.
Yeah, it makes no
whatsoever.
sense. Then look like one host plant, and then it can look like a different host plant, all in the same individual.
And it
which
was
is-
like, how does it know what shape of leaf to make?
exactly. It's extremely mysterious.
Whatever part that it needs to.
Yeah. Scientists have been pretty stumped as to how Boquilla manages this trick. And the leading hypotheses in the paper that was originally published about this were either plant pheromones, sort of, acting across distance, because the Boquilla doesn't even have to be touching the plant to mimic it, which is weird.
Oh, sure. Make it weirder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Or possibly bacteria that might transfer plant genes
Why
from
not?
the host to the Boquilla vine. So like
like
a
that.
vector, as they call it in
Yeah.
biology. There was, as I mentioned in that episode, there was also a paper later suggesting it was due to plant vision, but most scientists don't take that seriously.
They're like, no. Yeah.
No. I do have an update, though, thanks to what Kirk sent me. So the original paper's author did some analysis of the bacterial communities found in Boquilla and one of its host plants, and they found some intriguing results. So, yeah, basically they looked at Boquilla and at a tree that's called Raphithamnus spinosus. We're just going to call it the host from here on out.
Okay. A wise choice.
Okay.
Yeah. They took
Sounds
leaves
good.
from the host, and they also took leaves from Boquilla that was mimicking the host, as well as leaves from the same Boquilla plant, but that were not mimicking the host, from a different part of the plant.
Okay.
And yeah, so they did a special kind of DNA analysis on all of these leaves. So the object was to determine which bacterial species were found in and on the various leaves, and if they were like more similar in one way than another way. So there were a whole bunch of bacterial species that were shared among all three types of leaves. But once you count those out, once you count those out, it turns out that there was significantly more overlap in bacterial species between the mimic leaves and the host leaves. Okay, so the Boquilla leaves that look like the host and the host leaves. Mm-hmm. So they shared 255 bacterial species. 255, while the host and the non-mimicking Boquilla leaves shared only 79 species.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, that's quite a difference.
it is. And in fact, the mimicking and non-mimicking leaves of the same Boquilla vine only shared 33 species of bacteria. So the same plant, but with the different shapes of leaves.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh, wait. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's bizarre. So the two leaves of the plant had less in common than between the species?
That's correct. But that looked alike because it was mimicking the host.
Yeah. God, that's weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. So it's intriguing.
That's wild.
As the authors themselves state, this is only really a first step in investigating this hypothesis about bacterial gene transfer. It doesn't tell us if that is actually happening, but it does lend the idea some support. So it's really fascinating. So, I had this update thanks to this paper Kirk sent me, but it wasn't really enough for a whole episode. So I thought I would actually just make this an update roundup and catch up on a few previous topics that had some new research.
We always say we're gonna, come back and update us when we finally figure this out.
We'll get back to that.
This is exciting. All right, what more sciences have we learned?
I'm very excited.
I'm doing a deep cut. So we're going back all the way to episode 12, which was about transmissible cancers, particularly
God, this was horrifying, Victoria. Where they'd bite each other on the face
one
and stuff?
in Tasmanian devil.
So the horrifying face cancer that has decimated Tasmanian devil populations in Tasmania and Australia. Yeah. There's no really big update since then, except that, research continues to come out that the devils are seemingly continuing to evolve in response to the tumor and may be developing some resistance. But there was something really fascinating that I actually, it had been,
that would be great.
Released, like this data was out there, but I missed it the first time around when I was researching. So in that episode, I talked about other transmissible cancers as well. They're quite rare in nature, but they do occur in dogs, hamsters, and clams. But otherwise, they just don't happen that often. Right. It turns out researchers had discovered a second unrelated contagious cancer in Tasmanian devils in 2014.
Oh, poor. As if that wasn't bad enough. No, there's another one. Oh, for another species? No, for yours. Oh, thanks, Doc.
There's more.
There's more than one. And you can't tell by looking at it, but if you do DNA analysis, this cancer seemingly arose entirely separately from the original devil facial tumor disease.
What?
And it's even so they can tell which the sex of the animal that was the originator of each cancer, and one was from a male animal and one was from a female animal.
What is it about a Tasmanian devil that makes it a species where contagious cancer
is a thing?
Becomes a thing? That's just bizarre.
It seems like they are perhaps more prone to them than other animals. And the paper I read, it threw a couple ideas out there. It said, I guess that Tasmanian devils are sort of prone to cancers of all types in general.
Okay.
More than some other animals. And that combined with the very vicious way that they bite each other a lot, just like all the trauma that's occurring on their faces may just create conditions for this sort of transmissible cancer to occur more than in other species, but we really have no idea, frankly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I have one final update, and that is on the smell of Parkinson's disease. You remember this one?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, this was also a long time ago, episode 23. Yeah. There was a Scottish nurse named Joy Milne who has an amazing sense of smell, and her husband was eventually diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And quite a few years later, she realized when she attended a Parkinson's support group that the smell that she had smelled on her husband for decades, she was also smelling on the other people with Parkinson's disease in this group. And so she actually took it to researchers, and working with them, she in the laboratory was able to tell T-shirts from Parkinson's patients from normal people. And in fact, she even identified someone who wasn't diagnosed with Parkinson's at the time, but got diagnosed several months later. Yeah.
So she beat the test with her nose.
Yes.
Astounding.
Yeah. It's really
wild.
Amazing. Well, the update is that the researchers that Joy works with were able to identify specific compounds in human sebum, that's basically like your skin grease, that were associated with Parkinson's disease. And they have now developed an experimental Parkinson's disease detection system that only uses skin swabs, which are then, they're analyzed in a mass spectrometer. And
Sure,
this
sure.
has not been commercialized yet, but this could really
Okay.
revolutionize Parkinson's diagnosis
Oh,
and management
yeah.
because there's currently no diagnostic test, actually. It's just sort of,
Yeah.
I think it's symptoms and process of elimination, I believe.
Well, and in sort of a futuristic Star Trek-y kind of way too, like you wonder, are we going to get to a point where, we can identify so many different things like this, where you go into the doctor and it's like, oh, it's time for your once every 10-year, swab or something, and they just like go, bloop, oh,
Yeah.
it's sort of like for newborns, they do like where they draw blood and they now do genetic screening and stuff for a whole host of conditions. You wonder if there's something sort of like that coming down the road where you could just take a swab of, like your skin, and they're like, what? Here's all
Yeah.
these things we're testing for,
Well, I mean, there was the whole Theranos thing that was sort of claiming it was going
Yeah,
to be able to do that, and that didn't work out.
It turns out a little ahead of its time, perhaps,
Yeah.
but I mean, that was sort of the goal, and you
Yeah.
can see why people would be excited and get
Yes.
caught up in what was essentially ended up being a scam. But maybe we'll get there someday.
Yeah, it would be.
That'd be really cool if we did.
Yeah, so those are my 3 updates, and who knows, maybe we'll do another update episode sometime in the future.
Love it. Welcome back. It was what a triumphant return. Those are
Thanks,
great,
Victoria.
great updates.
Yeah.
And you'll be here next week as well. So
Yay.
everyone should tune in for that.
All right. Well, great talking to you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks everyone for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all of our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star review, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach out to us on social media by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can also check out our website, which is strangebynaturepodcast.com. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.